is on injured reserve with his shoulder injury after that face mask play. Let me just tell you some of the names on the depth chart at tight end. Jack Stoll, who we may get into.
Fan.
Tyree Jackson, who's come off the pup list. And then my favorite of all.
Former quarterback Tyree Jackson.
Yeah. And then my favorite of all, Grant Calcaterra, which I believe is an island next to Gibraltar, just off the southern coast of Spain. But he's in the mix of tight end now for the Eagles too.
But Grant Calcaterra cuts my hair, by the way. I believe he's a stylist in New York. All right, so first off, ultimately, I think it's going to be a committee. But it's notable because Goedert had such a massive target share, 21% so far this season. He's the third best tight end on a points per game basis this year. And so who takes place? My expectation here is that if you had to throw a dart at one of these guys, Jack Stoll would be the guy. Like, right now, he's more of a run blocker than Calcaterra. Calcaterra is more of the pass catcher, but because they are so run heavy and because he's a better he's a better blocker, I think Stoll will actually play more snaps, at least initially. Understand that 58% of his snaps, Stoll's this year, have come on run plays. He's run 79 routes this year. He's got 447. I mean, we are literally like sifting through sand here. Calcaterra profiles as the better pass catcher. 1 for 40 on 16 routes this year. Again, I mean, it's all super small sample size because Dallas Goedert is the man. They activate Tyree Jackson, who's an interesting prospect, like super athletic, obviously, former college quarterback, tried to make it as a quarterback in the NFL. He got converted. He got converted to tight end, which we've seen before with other quarterbacks as well. So he's sort of like a, kind of an interesting name, just you've heard of him. Yeah. But I think at least for this week, if I'm starting an Eagles tight end, it would be Jack Stoll against the Colts. But I think ideally what you're doing is you're going to the waiver wire. You're going to the waiver wire and picking up one of these tight ends.
Who are you really dropping for these? You're not dropping like Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Deion Jackson for Jack Stoll, are you?
No, but I mean you might need a starting tight end. Like
sure.
if I had Goedert in a league, I have him in a couple leagues. Like he's my only tight end. I haven't been because you're starting Goedert every week. So just some of the guys that are available in over 50% of Yahoo leagues at tight end that I like. Foster Moreau, your buddy, the island of Foster Moreau. We talked that name back in vogue.
Next to Gibraltar.
Sure. 16.5% target share in the 4 games that Darren Waller has missed. We like the matchup this week against Denver. It's one of the few areas of the field you can attack against the Broncos. Look, Mark Andrews, we're not 100% sure Mark Andrews is going to play this weekend. And even if he does, no Rashad Bateman. Could Isaiah Likely get some more snaps? 21% target share the last 2 weeks he's scored in back-to-back games. Juwan Johnson has been a top 10 fantasy tight end very sneakily in 3 of the last 4 weeks. They are going back to the Red Rifle. They announced that. We thought there might be some Jameis Winston, but Dennis Allen is like, you know what?
Looked at the tape and it turns out Andy Dalton's great.
Yeah, we just all the ineptitude that we've had over the last month. We want more of that.
Let's get another.
We're back in
of ineptitude.
They might be sneakily tanking the Saints. You know what I mean? They just may be like, anyway.
Their picks? Yeah.
Regardless, the fact of the matter is there does seem to be a little bit of a connection there between Dalton and Juwan Johnson. And then, of course, Trey McBride in Arizona. Zach Ertz, 18% target share, top 3 in red zone targets. McBride, a talented rookie who's gotten more playing time and certainly is going to get even more now with Ertz on the shelf.
Yep. Okay, let's jump to Marquise Brown, who the Cardinals have designated to return from injured reserve. Ian Rappaport reporting that Brown could be activated and play in Mexico against the 49ers. Now, if Marquise Brown is active, you're just starting him, you're starting DeAndre Hopkins. A bit of a negative impact on Rondale Moore, potentially.
See, I actually don't think so. I think Rondale Moore takes the Zach Ertz role. I mean, again, Marquise Brown and DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, Marquise Brown is going to cut into, and understand that's a relative term, but that it affects Robbie Anderson and A.J. Green. Rondale Moore, I don't think gets affected at all. I think that's they'll have Hopkins and Hollywood on the edges, Rondale Moore in the slot. It remains to be seen how these targets get split up. Hopkins is going to get a massive target share, but Hollywood Brown had 6 games this year where he was averaging 18.3 fantasy points per game. He got double-digit targets in 4 of the 6 games he played. There's a connection there between Hollywood and Kyler Murray, going back to college, obviously this year as well. I think he's getting there just in time. Hopkins has a 33% target share since he returned, so you figure that comes down a little bit, but they throw enough that I do think actually all 3 guys might be viable, given the fact that 21% of the targets are now on the shelf with the Zach Ertz injury. So anyway, it's just worth seeing if Marquise Brown is out there. We expect him hopefully to play. Again, still out there in a little over 20% of Yahoo leagues.
Yep, and they're 8-point dogs against San Francisco, so expecting that Colt McCoy is going to be throwing. It's a shame that team is such a disaster because that offense is going to be a lot of fun when Kyler Murray gets back. Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore, they've got a lot of weapons. Also a lot of weapons in Kansas City, though perhaps not as many this Sunday night on NBC against the Chargers.
And Peacock, you're a company man.
I am a company man. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, illness. Mecole Hardman, abdomen. Juju Smith-Schuster, concussion. They all missed practice on Wednesday, and it looks like it might be the Kadarius Toney show again.
90 total yards on 6 touches last week, 457 and a touchdown as a receiver. You saw the one-footed hop into the end zone. He also gets 2 rushes for 33 yards. And so, yeah, I mean, we'll see. But it is notable that Hardman, Juju, and MVS all missed practice. Now, they missed practice on a Wednesday, so this is Thursday. As of this broadcast, we'll see what happens today and Friday. But certainly, if even 2 of those 3 guys miss, you'd feel a lot better about starting Kadarius Toney, who, from week 1 to week 2 increased the number of snaps. He went from 9% to 44%. Some of that was dictated by the fact that they had no Hardman and Juju left early. But hey, we're looking at a little bit of a mash unit here for the Chiefs in terms of their pass catchers. Worth noting as well, Jerick McKinnon has had back-to-back games with 6 receptions, 8 targets. He's available in about 80% of Yahoo leagues. If a lot of these pass catchers were to miss the game on Sunday with the Chiefs, one would expect that McKinnon would be even more involved in the passing game as well.
Yeah, with these 3 guys, you'd probably set the line at 1.5 of them is going to miss. And if 2 guys are out, then Kadarius Toney is must start. If one is out, then it's probably borderline. You're probably playing him in your flex and not feeling amazing.
Yeah, it's a little borderline, right? I mean, we expect this to be a high-scoring game. It's one of the highest on the slate. It's Chiefs-Chargers. Chargers have a pretty good pass defense, but again, what you're excited about with Kadarius Toney is not only the talent, but the versatility. They can find different ways to manufacture touches for him. And again, if guys like MVS and Mecole Hardman are going to miss this game again, 2 of their big speed guys, certainly I think they'll get creative with Kadarius Toney, who the more he's there in Kansas City, the more he gets familiar with the offense, the more he develops a chemistry with Patrick Mahomes, the more Andy Reid gets to tinker.
Yes.
That's what this is. This
is
the
Tinker
tinkering.
Man? Is that the Tinker, the Matthew Berry Tinker animation?
Yeah, that's just so you know, like for people that are watching this silently, they're in their cubes at work and they don't want to hear it, but they're like, what's he? This is tinkering.
Yeah.
This is me being Andy Reid.
Kind of quietly terrifying. Let's go to Randall Cobb and his ankle injury. He's looking like he's going to be back tonight against the Titans, which might cut in. Does it cut into the Christian Watson experience, the Alan Lazard experience a little bit?
He's had 1 game with more than 4 targets this
year.
He loves Randall Cobb. He doesn't throw him the ball, but he loves him. He likes having him around.
As a man.
Yeah, as a man, as a human being, as a person, as a ayahuasca buddy. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? We never know. Guy has a 12% target share, so far this season. So I'm bringing it up just to dismiss it. It doesn't matter to me. If you were going to start Christian Watson or Alan Lazard, I would continue to do so. I'm not worried about Randall Cobb. Very quickly, just want to whip through a couple of other very quick headlines just to put on your radar. Big Mike Williams and Keenan Allen returned to practice yesterday for the Chargers. They did some individual drills. Again, we'll see as the week progresses, but so far, positive signs pointing to those guys returning for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. By the way, it looks like Jameson Williams is going to be activated by the Lions after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So if you have a roster spot in your league, worth kind of seeing if he's out there and stashing, because we know the upside of Jameson Williams, so he'll be available in a couple of weeks. And then David Johnson, our old friend David Johnson, former fantasy royalty, former #1 overall pick in fantasy, has been signed by the New Orleans Saints to their practice squad. And the only reason I bring it up is it's sort of interesting, right? Because Mark Ingram's banged up. Remember, the Saints were one of the teams that tried to make a claim on Eno Benjamin. He ends up going to the Texans, but both the Chiefs and the Saints made a bid to try to get Benjamin. Just makes you think that they tried to get Benjamin. They're signing David Johnson. They obviously have some concerns about the depth on that team behind Alvin Kamara.
Yep, feels like you might have one moment, David Johnson. Who knows?
You never know. But it's just I wanted to point that out there. And certainly Mark Ingram clearly not 100%.
Yep. Okay, let's jump to running back love-hate.
It is love-hate, by the way. Love-hate. Available right now for free on rotoworld.com, NBCSportsEdge.com. It's always free, and it's available now. You can pause us if you want and go read it.
Yes,
or listen to us talk about some of the players on it.
Yes, get a head start on it. Let's start off with a guy who is often on this list, Rhamondre Stevenson.
Yes,
he's on the love list again against the New York Jets.
I went to town on sort of the Rhamondre puns, by the way. I'm just letting you know in the column, something to look forward to. But
look forward to
he
it.
is, I've loved this guy. I've loved him in the preseason, loved him all season long, and finally Bill Belichick loves him. Since week 3, he's the 6th best running back in fantasy. He's had at least 19 fantasy points in 5 of the last 7. He's averaging over 20 touches per game in that stretch. And here's what's exciting for me and Mac Jones. Last 3 games, a 25% target share, 18 receptions on 22 targets in just the last 3 games there. You see it there on your screen, just all the fantasy production he's had so far. And so going against the Jets, who he had a successful game against in Week 8, you see it there on your screen. Week 8 against these same Jets, 21.3 fantasy points off the bye, 2 weeks to prepare for Robert Saleh's squad. Give me Rhamondre Stevenson as a top 10 play this week.
Yep, I cannot overstate how bad Mac Jones was in that Jets game in Week 8. All Jets fans will know this, as I include myself in that group.
You're in, you're out on the Jets. Take a flag,
I'm in on Sauce Gardner. I'm a Sauce
You've
Gardner.
always been a Sauce Gardner guy. That one I will give you.
That stays true. But
yes.
Mac Jones threw a pick 6 in that game that should have basically ended it and made it 17-3. Got called back because of a roughing penalty that had nothing to do with the throw. I don't think that they're going to be airing it out with Mac Jones against a very good New York secondary. So all in on Rhamondre Stevenson.
I agree.
Let's go to David Montgomery, who hasn't been the sexiest name all season. Khalil Herbert has taken the kind of sexiness equity in that Chicago backfield, but he is on IR. And you like David Montgomery against the Falcons.
We talked about him yesterday with Lawrence Jackson here on the show as well. But in case you missed yesterday's show or you just want to hear me repeat it, the fact of the matter is you're right. Like, without Khalil Herbert there, David Montgomery, they don't have anyone else that, whatever. Ebner's going to get 5 touches maybe, this thing. But it's going to be the David Montgomery show against the Falcons. Think about this. There was weeks 3 and 4 in which David Montgomery was out. And so in those 2 games, Khalil Herbert had 42 touches. By the way, that averages out to 21 touches a game. Did that math literally on my head. I don't like to brag and show off, but just wanted to let you guys know. Literally just right up here. Just, using my noggin. Just really impressive stuff right there. Just boom, immediately. 42 touches, 2 games, boom. In half, what does that equal? 21 per game. That's the average. Just something to think about.
Yeah.
Just again,
should be a
it's
trader
science
at
is what it is. I really should be a trader. I should have had your job. The fact of the matter is that, so we expect him to get in the neighborhood of 21 touches. By the way, 6 of the 7 running backs to face the Falcons this year that have seen at least 17 touches have scored 18 or more fantasy points. Given the mobility of Justin Fields, teams have to keep a spy linebacker on Fields. He opens up running lanes for Montgomery, so just massive volume and a great matchup against a bottom 10 run defense in the Falcons over the last 4 weeks. Montgomery is a top 12 play for me this week.
Yep, the total is 49.5 at BetMGM, which is
high-scoring
sneaky
game.
high for Chicago Atlanta, which is actually expected to be a shootout. So should be a lot of touchdown opportunities for D-Mont. Devin Singletary, not sure exactly where he's going to be playing, whether it's in Buffalo, where thunder snow is expected,
right,
or it's in Detroit, which will be anti-thunder snow, as it'll be in a dome.
Right.
So, but regardless, he's going to be playing the Cleveland Browns run defense, which doesn't really like to defend the run.
Yeah, obviously, listen, we'll see what's going to happen. That's going to be a major story, and we'll talk about this throughout the week. And obviously, Sunday morning on Fantasy Football pregame, myself and you, we will talk about that. But right as of now, massive snow is expected in Buffalo on Sunday. So we'll see if they play the game there or if they move it. But ultimately, even if it's snowing heavily, they're going to want to run the ball, especially against Cleveland, that allows the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing running backs so far this year. They've given up multiple rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs in 5 of the last 6 games. Singletary, who over the last 4 games is averaging 15.5 touches a game, so he's going to touch the ball a lot in a great matchup. 8 of the 10 running backs to see 12 touches in a game against the Browns have scored a touchdown. Both Mostert, friend of the podcast, Raheem Mostert, and Jeff Wilson Jr. scored against them last week. Devin Singletary, running back 17 for me this week.
Yep, I like that. The total is 42.5 on BetMGM. I actually like the over because the game might be played in a dome. Just one thing to consider. You get a fair bit of upside there. Let's go to others receiving votes.
You know where else you have a fair bit of upside? if you use the promo code Barry when you bet on BetMGM.
So you're going to talk about your upside with your math ability or something.
Well, I mean, that's not
pretty tough.
upside. That's just like, that's just obvious. It's just,
Yeah, the upside has been tapped.
You know what I am? I'm a mathlete.
You are a mathlete?
I'm a mathlete.
Okay, as opposed to an athlete.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a mathlete. Okay. That's what I am. I'm like little body by algebra right here. Is what you got.
Right,
like,
please get to some others receiving votes.
Yeah.
Headlined by shock horror.
I could can I show you? I can do some geometry to show you what Zach Wilson in a Mommy and Me class looks like. Would you like me to do that?
No,
just some geometry, just some shapes. Right?
Please don't. Yeah.
Right.
Can we talk about Antonio Gibson?
All right. Sure.
All right. Let's do others receiving votes.
What's your favorite geometry shape? Mine's always been the rhombus.
Trapezoid?
The rhombus. The trapezoid's a good one.
Yeah.
The trapezoid's a really good one. That's an underrated one. Nice pull.
Yeah.
There. I've always been a rhombus
I was going to say
guy.
triangle, but then you get more creative.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Look, here's just some others receiving votes in terms of from running back. Gibson and Robinson against the historically bad Texans defense. No team in the NFL is worse against the run, especially over the last 4 weeks where they're giving up 184 rushing yards per game. Isaiah Pacheco, again, thinking about bad defenses, Chargers 31st against the run over the last 4 weeks. Pacheco has had over 5 yards per carry in all 3 games that he's gotten double-digit carries. We expect him to do that against the Chargers on Sunday night. Gus Edwards, hopefully he should be back for the Ravens as well. I was a top 30 play today against the Carolina Panthers, team that allows the 6th most rushing yards per game to running back. And hey, how about Elijah Mitchell? Even though CMC is going to get his, Mitchell's actually who led the Niners backfield with 19 touches, and last week goal, according to Kyle Shanahan, is to have about even split between Mitchell and CMC. They play the Arizona Cardinals this week as well. So Mitchell, I think, is viable even in games in which CMC is healthy.
I think we should legally formalize the name of the Houston Texans as the historically bad run defense of the Houston Texans.
They are brutal. So yeah, Edwards and Mitchell just come in inside my top 30. As always, with any of these love and hates, check my rankings out to see specifically. Love and hate is always about just expectations. My rankings are up, and they are free on NBCSportsEdge.com, Rotoworld.com.
Yep. All right, let's get to hate, headlined by Miles Sanders, the guy that you were lukewarm on in the preseason. He goes up against...
Thanks for bringing that up, because I was dead wrong.
The pendulum might be swinging back.
Well, by the way, I was wrong on him, but so was Miles Sanders.
Yes.
Miles Sanders told us not to draft Miles Sanders. 100%.
Yeah, you get a mulligan on
that. The concern on Miles Sanders, Jay, to your point here, is the lack of passing game usage, right? So over the last 4 games, he has 1 receiving yard.
That's not great.
I can count the number of total receiving yards he has in the last 4 games on one hand.
Mathlete.
And I don't need. I could save 4 fingers.
Yeah.
You want to see one? I've got 1 finger for you. Well, we're in a full screen here, but you see the finger that I'm holding up to represent the 1 yard that Miles Sanders has in the receiving game. He's got a 2% target share over the last month, right? And so you think about this, it is low. See, look at you. You're catching on. You might be a mathlete yourself. This is not a good matchup with the Colts. Last 4 weeks, Jeff Sunday's squad is allowing just 3.4 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That's 3rd lowest in the NFL. They've given up 1 rushing touchdown. Count it, 1 rushing touchdown to a running back in the last month. Under 80 rushing yards allowed to running backs in 3 of the last 4. So Sanders, you probably still have to start him, but he's my running back 22, given the lack of passing game usage and this tough matchup against the Colts.
The Eagles are going to be losing that game, Matthew. They're going to have to be thrown.
Colts
win. Colts win, 6.5-point dogs.
I like that call.
They just win.
I like the call, man.
All right, team that doesn't win, Carolina Panthers. Deontay Foreman is on the hate list going up against the suddenly stout Ravens rushing defense, and they're probably not going to have the game script to run either.
To your point, they're 11-point underdogs here. Foreman has just a 7% target share of the last 4 weeks and 0 receptions in half the games over the last month. And so if they're down big to the Ravens, which that's what BetMGM and others in Vegas suspect, then how much passing game work does he get? Could it be more Chuba Hubbard in this one? Baltimore allows the 4th fewest rushing yards to opposing running backs, so Foreman outside my top 20. Despite the fact how good he's been since McCaffrey got traded, he comes in at running back 23 for me this week.
Yep. Okay, let's quickly talk about Kareem Hunt, who it's gone south for Kareem Hunt after a good start to the season. He might be playing in that thunder snow, so maybe they will be running the ball, but against Buffalo, don't expect the game script will be kind there either.
Under 8 touches and under 20 scrimmage yards in 3 of the last 4 games. Under 8 touches. And when he doesn't see 14 touches and 14 touches is a lot. When he doesn't get at least 14 touches, he's averaging 5.2 fantasy points per game. That's what we're talking about here. 5.2 fantasy points per game. He's had a total of 4 4 red zone touches in the last month here. It's been Nick Chubb. I don't know what it is, but they don't seem to like Kareem Hunt all that much. You don't love the matchup with Buffalo as well. To your point, the expectation here is that they're down and they're going to have to throw.
Yep. Okay, let's go to break. When we come back, pass, catcher, love, hate, headlined by some of the big names. Jacoby Myers, Darius Slayton, Foster Moreau.
Yeah, baby. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.